Hello and welcome to Outdoors and That. This video is off-track walking in thick scrub. So how to navigate when you can't really see very far into the distance, and also looking at night navigation, because these are essentially the same principles that are going to apply for both situations. So let's get started on some techniques. So if you're walking on a walking track like this, then you don't really have to make any decisions until you come to an intersection. And so it's really easy on the brain to just walk and then make a decision when you get to a point which forces you to make a decision. But if you turn and go off track, then you're making decisions all the time. And so this is where we can have these other techniques to help you limit the fatigue that you're going to get over a day of walking off track. So when you're walking off track, one of the things that can happen is you get really fatigued because you're making so many decisions every moment of every second. And so if I'm walking through a landscape like this, I've got to look at where to put my feet, but I'm also trying to stay in the right direction, but I don't want to lose my place on the map. And so there's a few things we can do to help that. One is to try and pick known points off in the distance. So I'll pick a particular point and then I don't have to think about navigating along the way, as long as I make it to that particular point which I can see, and then I'm not trying to stay on track or off track or keep on exactly the same line. I just choose that point and walk to that one. The other one that we can use there to limit decisions is those catching features, which we mentioned in the previous videos, and the handrail. So you can just walk along without making as many decisions, because you know that you'll be caught by a particular feature, or when you just get to a particular feature, then that is going to be a time when you can make the next decision. Because if you walk for 8 hours, without hitting a track, off track, always making decisions, that can be really mentally tiring. And by the end of the day, you're just fatigued about those decisions, and your decision making is not as good as it was earlier on. To help you with tracking your progress in tough terrain, like I'm walking over here, where you just want to be focusing on putting your feet in the right spot, not trying to hold your place on a map or a compass, it's a good idea to pick out really big features in the distance, identify those, and just walk towards that feature in whatever fashion works. You can just use those large features to aim for and know that you're going to hit that and be in the right spot, rather than trying to keep track of all the little things along the way, as well as walking through difficult terrain that might be slippery or rocky or full of scrub. One of the first things you can do is follow your way from tree to tree. So even though you can't see the ground cover very well, you can look at the trees and follow your way along like that. And then also use the trees and just look at the canopy as a proxy or a reference for what is happening on the ground. Because here the trees are roughly all the same height. So if I can see what's happening to the tree canopy, then I can also transfer that to what's happening on the ground as well. So that's a couple of techniques to improve how you are looking on the ground. The next thing is looking at how long it's going to take you to get to your destination. So if I'm walking through thick scrub like this, then it's going to take quite a while for me to get from A to B. And so I've got to take that into account, that I won't be expecting to see the features pop up as quickly as I would if I was walking on a track. And so that's an easy way to not get too far ahead of yourself or not think that you've gone too far. The other problem with that is that you just end up walking and walking and walking, and you're focusing so much on getting through the scrub that you lose track of time, and then you've actually walked further than you have. So just keeping a really close look on the time that it's taking you to travel X distance, and then also focusing on those features and noticing features when you do come across them to keep track of where you are. A couple of really good techniques for thick bush and or night navigation. Another technique when walking in a thick scrub environment is to only go where you need to go. And so here I've actually got like a little slot behind this bunch of bushes, and even though I might be on a compass bearing that's taking me on this way, I've got this thick band. And so what I would do is I would jump through the little gap and then catch up with my compass bearing later up the hill. And to do that, I can pick a point. So I can see there's a tree with a white fork up there, and then I can walk around back up to that point and continue going on my way. So here we are doing some night navigation, and as you can see in the top left, It's about a half a moon tonight, and the camera's not coping with not having any light provided by me. But actually, even with half the moon, I've been able to walk down this track for a few hundred meters. I can stay on the track, I can work out what's going on generally, and I can see a loose horizon around where I am. So there's a couple of techniques you can use, and here I have my high beam torch on looking into the distance, and it provides that distance if I wanted to spot something further away from me. But really my favorite way to walk is to use a much wider beam that's closer to me, and this way I can see what's happening immediately in front of me, and I've got that in my peripheral vision. But then I'm using my night vision to be looking at those longer distances across the landscape. Walking on track like this, you know, if I'm walking on a main track, I'm on a bit of a fire road here, and I can see pretty clearly from side to side. And if I was coming up to a track intersection or looking at a tree, all these types of things are pretty easy. Now, walking at night, you tend to have much heightened senses about what's around you. You tend to notice noises more, and so these are all things that will come into play in helping you navigate around the landscape. So here I'm just walking along, and I'm looking for a track that's going to be entering in from the side, and by scanning from side to side I can actually see that it's just been picked up now, and I have that small footpad there. And so I'm using the immediate vision of my torch to keep an eye out for what I'm walking on, but then I'm trying to actually keep my eyes up most of the time to look at the longer features out in the landscape. So if you are walking off track, you want to make sure that you open up the possibilities of where you can be a bit more, and so you're going to try and find really defined features in the landscape and use those to your advantage. Giving yourself about 10 degrees of variation to your compass while walking at night will just open up the possibilities of where you can be, and then also help you understand the options that you have for your location. So night navigation, it can actually be really relaxing over time, and you really get those heightened senses for where you are. And recommendations are to start with easy and familiar things. It's often a really good idea to work and walk in, especially if you're a weekend warrior, to walk in on a Friday night, do some of the walk, then camp, and then when you start on your Saturday, you've got a really good head start on where you want to be, and it opens up some options as to what you want to achieve and where you can go. So your task for this video is to walk in an off-track environment using the techniques that we've looked at in this video, and try and walk in a straight line, and using those techniques to become more and more comfortable in walking in an off-track environment in the bush. Again, choose a location where you can just walk out to the nearest road or really clear feature easily, so that you don't have that overlying stress that if you actually do get geographically embarrassed, that it's not going to cause serious consequences as a result of that. So you're just practicing those skills here in this video. In the next video, we're going to look at navigating on the water and in a river or lake environment, not so much open ocean, but these are a couple of techniques to help you stay on track in that environment.